everyone, it's Frankie-Lou. I'm coming to you today from the kitchen at the Grow Together Homestead, where I thought I'd talk today about something that's pretty basic to gardening. And I know that a lot of you probably have a pretty good handle on this, but I also know that there's a lot of brand new gardeners out there, which is an awesome thing. And I wanted to make sure that this is something that is understood. And that is your grow zone. The moment you join a gardening site, you're probably asked, what is your zone? Or you see people talking about zone. And if you're new to it, you're wondering, what the heck are these folks talking about? So what that is your grow zone or your agricultural hardiness zone or your plant hardiness zone is basically helps you determine what kind of plants are going to survive and thrive in your area or your zone, right? Now that might seem simple, but there actually are two major zones that you will see often referred to here in where I live, Southern Alberta, because we see the USDA zones, okay, the US Department of Agricultural zones. We also see the ones that are generated by Natural Resources Canada, which is the Canadian hardiness zone, okay? Now, those USDA zones are great, they're useful, but they're based on one factor basically, which is the average winter temperature, average coldest temperature, okay, that the plant that you're looking at is gonna survive. Now, Canada, we've got it just a little bit more complex, and there's several factors that are taken into consideration when they are generating what are Canada plant hardiness zone is, okay? So there's those minimum temperatures in the winter, but then we also factor in maximum temperatures in the hottest times. Things like rainfall, the amount of snow and the depth of snow. There's wind, that's a pretty thing to be considering. The length of time that you have those cold days. There's like 6 different factors that are taken into effect for considering that they use to consider and calculate out what our zones are. So I do like our system because I know that even my neighbor who is got a little bit less wind exposure than I do can grow things that I can't, okay? They would be deemed the same zone as I was though. So that's another thing that you want to consider. Where I live right now is considered basically a high 3A, low 3B, okay? But on one side of my house, I would say it's would be the 3A because it gets lots of wind. And on the other side of my house, it's a lot more sheltered, so that would be closer to what would be 3B that would grow there. Because when you purchase a plant at a store, there's particularly perennials, because those are supposed to come back year after year after year. You want to know that it's going to survive the winters and sometimes the summers that are in your area. Otherwise, you're going to have heartache and you're going to have dead plants and you're going to have to spend more money, right? So you do want to know what the zone is in your area. Now, there's a couple ways to do that. You could go on to Natural Resources Canada's website and look at either their interactive map or their plant hardiness zone by municipality, and I will put the link to that in the description for this video. But I find a much better resource for that are your neighbors and your local gardening crazy people like yourself. If I were living in town, right in Calgary, what I would do is I would contact the Calgary Horticultural Society and see what they deem my neighborhood's zone to be, okay? Because it's a large cities gonna have multiple zones, okay? So it's important that you know what your local zone is. There are things that I cannot grow here, which can be grown 4 kilometers away from me. All right, it can be that finite, the differences. And even in your own yard, zones are great as a general overall encompassing thing, but you also want to consider the microclimates that are in your yard. There's a lot of factors that can come into play that can help a plant, a nice perennial that you just purchased, or some nice seeds that you just purchased to grow your own perennials. But and then things would be like the proximity to a house, because a house is trapping heat during the day. It also provides shelter from the wind. But if maybe it's also stopping some of the sunlight from coming, you do want to know what your microclimates are. You want to look at things around your yard and see, okay, I got a fence here and it's south facing. I bet you I can get away with growing some stuff here that wouldn't grow on my north facing shaded area, right? You do have to take those things into consideration when you're purchasing your plants and when you're choosing your placement. We'll do more videos about that stuff later. Right now we're going to focus on zones. Okay, so why do you need to know your zones? Well, I have found in my personal experience from working in the garden industry, it's not as critical when you go to a small gardening center. Small gardening centers tend to be a lot more careful about the purchases that they're going to make to sell to you in the store. Seed racks in large stores, like in large national stores, are huge. But if you look and you actually read those seed packs, I have seen in my local Canadian Tire, and don't get me wrong, I love Canadian Tire, but they just buy the same thing. Their seed distributor is going to put the same seed rack in my little southern Alberta, Calgary seed area as they're going to put on my sister's place on the island. Okay, they're going to be the same seeds. National stores tend to show tend to have the same displays. So there will be perennial flower seeds there that are zone 6. There's not a chance that that seed is going to survive my Calgary winters. Okay, same as when you're buying your seedlings or you're buying your plants. Make sure you look at the zone, because the larger stores are going to purchase a much wider array of plants, and some of them will not survive. Okay, I just don't want you to waste your money, and I don't want you to cry, okay, when you bring home a beautiful hellebore and it just doesn't make it here. Okay, so those are things that you need to know when you are starting out in gardening, or you might get discouraged, and we don't want that, right? We want you to have a thriving, happy garden, and that makes a thriving, happy gardener as well. So knowing your zones is important, okay? Assessing the microclimates in your own yard are important, and your local neighbors are important, because particularly if you're new to an area, you can walk around and you can see, what do I consistently see growing well, particularly with perennials. That's probably a good choice for you to make, especially if you're new to gardening. It's always good to make that safe choices at the start, and then work up to getting a little more tricky with creating some nice little microclimates for your more exotic species. Okay, now another thing you want to know about Canada and our zones, which, as I said, I will put the link in here, is they've changed. Okay, out here in the West, there has been a general trend to the zones going up, whereas in the East there's been some that have actually gone down. Another thing you need to know is if you are purchasing seeds from, say, US sources, their zone numbers, not across the board, but tend to be one less than ours. So for instance, if I buy a pack of seeds from an American seed company and it says USDA zone 3, and I think, yay, it's perennial, I can grow it here. No, I can't, not at my place. If I think that I can grow that here, it's unlikely. You want to add, okay? So if it says zone 3 in the US, it's more likely to be closer to a zone 4 Canada standards, which I can't grow unless I have a special little area set up, like on my glass deck. It might work there. There are a lot of other factors that are important, and as I said, I will make more about things like frost-free days, shade loving versus sun loving, yada plants. But I thought that was a good start, because I know a lot of you are going through your catalogs right now and going online to buy stuff, and I don't want you to waste your money. And if you're new to it, I hope you will ask questions, both of your locals, and also let me know. Please let me know in the comments if there's something that you've been wondering about but you're embarrassed to ask somebody. I'm never embarrassed to talk about anything to do with plants. So please feel free to ask those questions and let me know what you'd like to see. I hope that might have helped clear up some of the mysteries around zones. As I said, check with your local horticultural society or your local gardeners group. They probably got a much better idea than some big national site does. All right. Hope that was helpful. Hope you're having fun planning your next garden. And as always, I hope you'll take this chance to grow together today. Have a good one.